my op-ed today over at HartmannReport.com is titled "How Trump's MAGA GOP Increases the Risk of World War III." And, you know, I mentioned this briefly yesterday, that there are basically two groups that are working really, really hard to devastate the United States government, or, you know, what you and I think of as the United States government. One is the group of right-wing billionaires who think that the government is doing a whole bunch of things that it shouldn't be doing, that there's absolutely no reason for, in fact, you know, it's counterproductive to have programs like welfare programs, women and infants, children program, you know, providing health care, food stamps, providing food to people, Section 9 housing, subsidized housing. All of these things in the minds of these right-wing billionaires, you know, hey, I became a billionaire, you can too. All of those things are things in their minds that actually cause people to become lazy. Now, you know, the science suggests that that's a crock, that there's no truth to that at all, or very little truth to that. If getting free stuff caused people to be lazy, then we should outlaw, you know, any inheritance by the children of rich people, because, hey, you're going to turn their children into lazy people. Who wants, you know, that would be a terrible thing to do, right? The inheritance tax should be set at 100% if we're really concerned that giving people free stuff makes them lazy. I mean, you know, the Koch brothers inherited an oil company from daddy, right? George W. Bush inherited, you know, a fortune from his father and grandfather. I mean, did it make them lazy? I don't think so. So anyway, that's a starting point. Number one, you've got a group of right-wing billionaires who are trying to tear down our country, or at least tear down what we think of as our country, all the protective functions, all the things that our country does. And then on top of that, you've got Putin and Xi and MBS in Saudi Arabia. You got a bunch of Hamas now. You've got a bunch of groups or organizations or whatever you want to call it who are very interested in tearing down the United States, in just, you know, not having us be an influence internationally, and for that matter, having us be in complete disarray domestically. Russia is particularly interested in this, which is why they worked so hard to get Donald Trump elected president in 2016, why they tried to get him reelected in 2020, and while they're still pushing his candidacy among, you know, other countries. You've got Chinese trolls as well as Russian trolls. I mean, this is, you know, right across the board. So now you've got 11 Democrats on the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party who sent letters to the Director of National Intelligence and the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency asking for a briefing on how the Chinese government is manipulating Republicans amidst the speaker debate to keep America enfeebled in anticipation of a possible invasion of Taiwan. This is what their letter said, quote, "Our foreign adversaries are leveraging current political dysfunction in the U.S. House of Representatives to discredit democracy globally in their efforts to promote an alternative authoritarian model of governance internationally, enhance their ability to form economic and national security alliances, and harm our standing with strategic partners." So, you know, the Democrats have figured out that the Republicans are being manipulated by the Chinese communists. I got to say, you know, as an old hippie peacenik freak, it pains me to say it, but America, Europe, and the democracies of Asia are all preparing for world war. And we should probably have a conversation about this. I mean, one of the factors giving it a push is the way the Republican Party has basically kneecapped America in this Trump-Putin era, you know, amplified by the successes that Russia and China are having with the help of, you know, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and the Murdoch family in social media and television media, in basically eroding American and overall Western unity around what used to be a shared belief in democracy. This period from World War II until today has often been referred to as the long peace. I mean, yeah, there were wars, but they weren't world wars. The Vietnam War wasn't a world war, you know, Afghanistan, Iraq. And that peace, that period of peace from 1945 until today, more or less, is generally believed to have stood because the United States was militarily so strong, that we defeated Germany and Japan in World War II and Spain and Italy. And, we were and we defeated the Soviet Union in 1991. And, the Soviet Union ended, and now it's just Russia. So, we still have this kind of military power, but how do world wars start? World War I was a series of local crises that, like dominoes falling, or matches, igniting other matches, each one lit the next one. Until, and until countries started invoking mutual defense treaties and then, started interacting, fighting each other. So that was how World War I played out. World War II, on the other hand, came about because an anti-democratic bully, an axis of fascist strongmen, that was in Europe, it was Germany, Italy, and Spain, and in Asia, of course, it was Japan, that they decided the world's honeymoon with democracies was over, was long over, and that being weaker than tough guy autocracies, we wouldn't have the stomach. That they thought that we were weaker, and so they figured we wouldn't take on the bullies. And at first, it looked that way. I mean, the Germans had incredible successes between 1938 and 1941, until two things happened. One was, Japan bombed us at Pearl Harbor, and that got us into the war with Japan, which immediately got us into the war with Germany. And at the same time, you had this just, all-out war going on all across Europe that was, as the world became aware of it, it killed 28 million people. Excuse me, that was World War I. World War II killed 50 to 80 million people. So if World War III is to happen in the future, it would almost certainly be a combination of the two. In other words, local crises spiraling to the point where, you have major powers interacting with each other. So there's three different scenarios for this. The first is World War III begins in the Middle East. The second is World War III begins in Europe. And the third is World War III begins in Asia. And I realize it's grim talking about this stuff, but I think it's an important conversation to have. How might these things happen?